So Tim Miller and I were just having a conversation about Hill Street Blues, and it turns out that he's downloaded all the shows. Uh, it was a great, great TV series, and it was a lot. It was probably the first time that policing had been portrayed in, I think, such a true light, right?
Well, I look at it as I always looked at it as a real TV. I believe that stuff, but chips you couldn't believe.
Although,
Nowhere do do I, when I was starting out, do I arrive on a scene of a crash and then, everybody's okay, and take care of them and then turn to somebody and go, okay, we'll see you, and then drive off. That don't happen.
yeah.
You got to do your stuff.
Of
So,
course, Estrada, now that he's actually doing the real thing. Well, he did it actually in Illinois before he came here to Idaho, right?
oh
So,
yeah, and then now he's actually a reserve officer over in Eastern Idaho.
yeah. And he did road patrols, overnight road patrols in Moline,
Yeah,
is it Illinois or
yeah,
somewhere?
yeah.
That was his first love, and he finally got a chance to do it as he got a little older. Uh,
Well, you don't see him on the motorcycle riding in the winter up here, though.
no. And every hair in place, and
Oh, absolutely.
even with a helmet on,
Yep.
nothing changes. It just.
Nope.
Well, we wanted to have you come by today. I know there's a number of things you wanted to touch upon while you're here. Number one, you're getting great response to that campaign. I think about road safety in deadliest days, right?
Well, it is. People have made a lot of great comments that Town Square Media has done joined in on the campaign. But again, we still see uh, traffic crashes and some serious injuries or deaths coming from those. And it's sad to watch it. It just seems like we have um, people are just becoming complacent, and we need to watch what we're doing. Last night I decided to go out and relieve a little stress and went down towards Hollister and on Highway 93 and still 80s and 90 speeds and um, you know pull them over and let them know that I love them. I guess no, uh, but it's fun to help educate the people. But it's got to take that seriousness. Like the people that I stopped, I asked them if they knew the speed limit, and they said, I think it's 65, 70. We just come out of Nevada, and you got to understand that those things change, and the speed limit signs change. So the awareness, keeping your eyes up, uh, you know, actually focusing down the road instead of focusing on the radio or things inside the car or any other distractions that may occur. But you have a deadly weapon in your hands, and I mean it can be disastrous for a family and a community.
We have a telephone caller with us. Captain Tim Miller is in the studio on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. He's from the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes. About a year ago, I know the sheriff department went through a very emotional time when they found Angel Rose, that infant baby, alongside the road. And I had the honor in one of the veterans that held flags outside the ceremony there at the church. And what I'd like to know is, it still an open case, and is there a fund set up for reward or anything, any kind of a fund set up in her name in remembrance of her? I'll take my comment off the air. Thank you.
Well, I mean that was a tragic event, especially for that deputy that found her, and there is no fund set up, I don't believe, just in her name, but it could be through the Crime Stoppers Fund um, that we could provide funding for support on the tips. Um, it's still a working case. They haven't closed any doors. Those cases never really close. Um, they may go cold for a little while, and then something may trickle in. Um, but again, those type of cases never really close. Even after somebody's arrested, that case is never closed because there's still things to do.
And it's interesting he mentioned that because I don't normally, when I leave the office, I go the other direction. But one day last week, I turned and went that way, and I passed by the scene, and it was the first time I'd thought about it in months myself. But as soon as I got to the intersection and I made my turn, I started thinking about it, and realized that we've been about 6 or 8 months now since that happened.
And got to understand that one specifically is very difficult because it could be somebody passing through the community that gave birth to someone that we don't know. If they didn't seek medical treatment, if a family member doesn't speak up, it's just a difficult situation, and it may go unsolved. You never know. Years down the road, someone may that guilt may start to continue to eat at them, and they may come forward. You never know.
Can you stick around for another 15, 20 minutes?
I've got till 9:30, so you can have me.
Gonna say, somebody probably at the office is looking at their watch saying, "Where is the captain?"
No, I'm gone for the day. I'm in training, so
Well, we'll have more coming up with Captain Tim Miller from the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department in just a couple of minutes. We're coming up on 20 minutes away from 9 o'clock, and it is currently 60. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Captain Tim Miller joining us in studio from the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department, and he'll be here until just before 9 o'clock this morning. You can also reach him if you've got a comment or question. 736-0300. That's 736-0300. And of course, I want to mention Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com. And we're at 60 right now and about 8:43 this morning. So, heard this from one of your coworkers the other day. There's been this controversy ever since the sexual assault at Fawnbrook, alleged sexual assault at Fawnbrook Apartments, June 2nd, I believe it was. So we're about 2 months later. And there's been a lot of blowback for obviously the city and the city police department. But the thing is, a lot of this is coming from other parts of the country, and people pull up a website and it just shows you there are not a lot of critical thinkers out there, or they're not acting rationally. Maybe they're a little hot-headed at the time, and they don't distinguish between Twin Falls County and Twin Falls City. So a lot of that nasty email is coming into Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department, even though you weren't the lead agency in the investigation.
you know, Bill, I was there that night, and I think I was like the fourth person there. We were covering for the city. They were having a banquet to honor their officers, and so we were covering the city for them for 4 or 5 hours. And when we got the call, we were there within a few minutes, and and then we were probably 45 minutes or so into it, and determined that we should have their on-call investigator come over. So he left the banquet to come over and take care of it. But I think what people, so many times we say Twin Falls, and we get grouped together. Um, Keep in mind that Twin Falls City is their their legal area is the city limits. Their chief is appointed by the city council. He can be fired at any time. Uh, Ours is sheriff. He's elected every 4 years. Legislature, in law, there are things that the sheriff's office is responsible for. Uh, we take care of things outside of the city limits. We can enforce laws within the city limits. Actually, anywhere inside Twin Falls County, any of the cities or the properties inside Twin Falls County. Um, and so when you start, people like to group us together. I was talking with a lieutenant over at the state police the other day, and he says, we're getting comments, regarding you guys, and people will do this media blast out. Um, just because they may have come across a website with some emails on it. It was funny. One of the emails that was from out of state had they sent it to 5 different people. Well, 3 of them don't work here, and I mean it was an old website wherever they got those emails from. I mean those people have been gone for 10 years or more. So that credibility just kind of we read every email and respond appropriately. If we feel that we just don't want to keep fanning the flames, we'll do a proper response and try to let that die because we got other things to do.
Well, I think a lot of people, if they're in Kansas or California and they're worked up about this, they do this Google search of Twin Falls, uh, and they come up with a page, and the first thing they see are cars with lights on them and somebody standing there with a badge on the page and think, I've got it. But again, they don't necessarily always have Twin Falls City.
Yeah, you got to
Not
keep.
that we're approving any of the nasty emails they're getting. We're just pointing out that people aren't doing their research.
Yeah, I mean, if you do a search, just this morning I was looking at images looking for a picture to do a post, and I mean, if you put in let's say Idaho State Police or Idaho Police, you're going to get pictures from in the 70s and 80s, and those are linked to a website, and hopefully we can get a name from that. Or, I mean, it's just bizarre the routes these guys go. Some of the comments are, because of what happened in Fondbrook, we're never going to come through your community or visit your state because it's so racist. You know, my true gut feeling is that's your choice. Keep it for us, I guess.
And but you think about it too. Probably Idaho Falls is even mistakenly getting in here because people. I mean,
Anything with falls,
right,
post falls up
right.
in northern Idaho.
American Falls. They're
Yes.
all getting these
Yeah.
types of emails related to it.
Yeah. And again, it's the things that we have to sort through. Some are so threatening or whatever that those will be prosecuted if they'll track those down. They're working with the FBI and even locally, if there are threatening emails that rises to the level of a criminal charge, you will be charged.
Oh, there's a smart thing to do: go out and threaten people who already have an arsenal of ammunition. Uh,
Well, it's funny too. If you remember, back when school, when the guys are sitting there taunting us and we're sitting there taunting them, and then we hide behind the big guy behind. It's like we've got a guy that's 6'11" on patrol, and I told him I've always got his back. I'm going to let him go in first. Um, but this is the same thing. People, they don't have the fortitude to come forward personally um, and say those same things. We hide behind a mask of anonymity, we think.
Got about 10 minutes before 9 o'clock. Tim Miller is joining us in studio. He's a captain with the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department. Telephone number 736-0300. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. Some of this stuff has gotten so ridiculously out of hand that I people are trying to manufacture trouble now with police and deputies and the like. It's bad enough that this whole Black Lives thing has gone nationwide over the last couple of years, but now you've got to add all of this to it. There's a story at Real Clear Politics today that says uh, mayors from around the country are saying that they are for the first time in their administrations are worried for the safety of officers and law enforcers like never before. And we've got some local people, unfortunately, who are not contributing to that.
No, and like I said, we're trying to provide a safe community. Um, do violent crimes happen that we disagree with? Absolutely. I mean, we have that same sentiment that some of these vocal people are bringing up. We may have that same sentiment, but we also have a job to do, and that is to protect all citizens. It's not a select group. Um, and just as you and I were talking off air, if someone here is here in the country legally, they have the same rights as what you and I do. And I don't care if they're black, white, or red. Um, everybody's the same, and we still have to protect that under the color of the Constitution.
We have another caller with us, maybe a couple of callers. You're on the air with Captain Tim Miller. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I just want to say I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I know you get, called everything in the book. I was coming back home from a trip one afternoon, and I was really tired, and I got pulled over. And I believe it's the officer you was talking about that was 6'11". He come around, and what they pulled me over for was, I was scared I was speeding or something, and I was not. But he came out and said it was my headlight was out, and he explained to me that if we know what kind of bulb did I put in there, so they get too hot. So that helped me out. But I just wanted to say I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's just like me going out last night. I enjoyed myself. It helped me relax, and I did 5 traffic stops, and each one of them were somebody different, and they were from out of state, but they were fun. I don't know. There's a point when we're all human and we all make mistakes. And I'm not saying that I don't go and speed. I think if somebody says they never break the law, it's a fantasy world for them.
Oh, there are times I find, and it happens in a split second, you realize you didn't really come to a full stop, or you look down and you realize you're going 10 miles over the limit. And sometimes you're just not aware of it, and it catches you all of a sudden.
But when it catches you, do you correct it? the next time. That's the point. If you just keep letting it go, then that
Right.
becomes an issue.
But, generally a ticket or two will do the correction.
It's part of the education process.
That's a good way to put that. We have another caller with us, and you're on the air on KLIX. Captain Tim Miller is our guest. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you. You mentioned Black Lives Matter. I listen to the various TV shows, and I come to believe that perhaps our enlightened president causes most of these problems that the police are now having problems with. I don't know. I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I just know that when you take Black Lives Matter to the White House, it seems that he is stirring up problems not necessary. I fully respect the police, and I feel sorry each time an officer gets killed, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want their job. I respect them very much. I hope that they can be safe and we can resolve this problem and get this life back to unity, not a black and white situation. I work at Shabani, and there are about half people there are black, but they're from Africa and all over. And I respect them, and they respect me. I just feel sorry for those who are incited to go out and shoot police officers when they're trying to do their duty. Thank you for taking your time.
Can I add to that too? Because I think some of the politicians who got this rhetoric started didn't realize what they were unleashing, and now they don't know how to get out of it.
I think that's true. Um, and people like to fan that then. And so I'm hoping that you see a shift in the next, after the election and things calm down. It's got to, because it's getting crazy. And, you know, and I appreciate your comment about working with other races or other people. Um, it's just like if I'm walking down the street and somebody says, that Bill Colley, he sure is a jerk. Well, for me, I'll defend and say, well, I don't understand what you're talking about because my interaction with him has been favorable, and that's how I look at it, is I won't group somebody together. Um, to me, it is my interaction with you is what I base my opinion on. It could be whether it's races, religions, whatever it is. Um, somebody will say, well, this religion is a big issue in the community. Is it, or is it just an individual or two?
And the other part of this is too, there seems to be a belief out there that people in law enforcement, some of them are getting out of the bed in the morning, dressing and looking to go out and cause some mayhem. And my own personal experience, having had someone in the family who was doing this for a living when I was little, and I would sometimes go to the diner with him, and there was often a police table. It was just guys coming in from different agencies, and so here I was, 6 or 8 years old, sitting around listening to all this conversation. That was No one was sitting there saying, "Who are we going to get today?" They were talking about the football game the day before, or hey, was there a card game on Friday night? And it's just like everybody else.
After 33 years, I just have trouble getting out of bed. So
Yes.
I don't. I look at when just like yesterday, we had I called the firearms our instructors together, and we met at a restaurant instead of in the office, just someplace different, and let's get out of this where we can enjoy and relax a little bit instead of in this same environment. Um, and that's what you'll see is when a couple officers are together at a restaurant or a cafe, that's their stress relief. They're getting away from their office, the car, or they may be getting away from whatever. They may talk business for a few minutes, but it doesn't last. That's it. It is their stress relief. They're trying to get away from the reality of what we do.
I can remember we had a neighbor named Al Frangella who was a police officer. And I remember sitting in the diner with my dad, and he came in and sat down with us. And our entire conversation for the next half hour dealt with how much he hated watching hockey on TV. And none of it was law enforcement. None of it was about anybody he'd written a ticket to that day. It was just your typical conversation you'd hear in any diner
You know,
anywhere.
it's just like when I go home to the wife, I may tell her a couple things that happened in the day, but my whole conversation the rest of the evening isn't about law enforcement.
Yeah.
So, um, Bill, before we go, I just wanted to remind people a couple things. One, we have the school starting next week, and I just asked people please be aware of the kids walking around, school buses, and for the teenagers driving to school, please slow down. The other is we have the county fair coming up, which is sometimes
Hmm.
a travesty in the fact of trying to get out of there as traffic. And we will do our best to help you get out of the fairgrounds in the safe possible manner. Please be patient with us,
Don't run over anyone while you're doing it.
especially us.
Yes. Yeah, because you're needed the next night and the night after
That's
that
true.
and the like. Well, thank you for coming by today. Good seeing you.
You bet. You said I had till 9:30.
Yes. The thing is, we could probably talk till noon.
That's true.
I want to thank Captain Tim Miller for joining us today. It's coming up on 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310, KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. News is next from Fox.